Right. Hi, I'm Steve Mosser. I said I'm the founder of Sensée and known inside the business as the handyman. So we define the world generally of an operation in what we call management modes, which is line management, which is me being a team leader manager, managing a team, and what we call live management. All right. And this is managing the now, the moment, being on the pulse and ensuring that everybody is equipped with the information, the knowledge, and support they need to perform. So we've roughly defined that in these various areas. As you can see, there's a long list here. I'll let you read through. But these are basically the typical areas that that as a team leader and manager, I have to do with my team, and as a contact center operation, I need to deal with when I'm on my on the floor and managing my contact center. So really quickly, obviously I'm QA, call marking, one-to-one and coaching, basic HR admin, team performance, team events and incentives, floor walking and support, communications and brief, real-time monitoring, first line IT triage, sickness and absence line, and also for when transactions are involved, what happens when there's failed payments. I've put this in scope because a large proportion of contact centers do take payments, and this is typically an area where we have questions in terms of how do you manage this with work from home. So I want to basically use this opportunity to go through how we define communications and collaboration. The first one is identifying what's the frequency of these activities that I've listed here. Put your eyes to that in live management, most of the activities are constant. All right, so when I'm floor walking and providing knowledge support to my people, that's a constant activity during my operation. So these are not ad hoc, a moment in time. Also, a really important aspect of communication is understanding what type of communication. Is it a one person to one person, one to many people, an activity I do on my own? Is it myself and my team? Is it a many to many type of activity? What we have here is how is this typically performed inside an office and how effective that is. All right, so the effectiveness score is from 0 to 5. You'll be glad to see nothing's at 0 in the office and in the workplace. And generally, what we have found over the years is a majority of our clients and operations out there have effective methods, processes, and tools to perform those various activities that I've listed here. Some of them, they're irreproachable, they're done perfectly well. And that's very often, but as you can see in the line management side of things, i.e. managing my team, I think we're all pretty versed in what do we need to do, what are the do's and don'ts around managing people. However, where we've seen over the years and is actually managing the now, all right? And what we see in the typical office environment is that there are some processes, tools, or to, for example, giving live support to my people. But what we see is the larger the contact center, generally, the more these processes are actually not consistent and don't perform very well. So I'll give the example I always give to a lot of people is around floor walking and providing, having subject matter experts that are there to support my people when they're speaking or in contact with customers. And the typical process that operates, and hence the low score, is there's people running around the contact center. I raise my hand because I have a question. Hopefully somebody sees me. Somebody is free to come and talk to me and help me out. Meanwhile, I'll put my customer on hold. That person comes and gives me the support. They answer my question. I get back to the customer and off I go again. And this is obviously a critical piece of the equation in having a good effectiveness in terms of in the customer experience. But what we're finding is that it's actually not a really good process. And hopefully in this presentation, I'm going to show you how that needs to be performing from a work from home perspective and in a hybrid operation. Now, if we look at the same processes in work from home operations, what we see is actually that, and you can see here in the scores, is that all these processes aren't translated very well when businesses have at-home agents and operations, all right? And this is where Sensée in the professional services helps, and what we call a path to green around these areas, so that we don't end up with this situation, which is that on one side, I've got processes in the office that work for the most part, but when I have people at home, all of a sudden, they become second-class citizen in terms of care and in terms of the effectiveness of my support processes and what I do as an operation to support my people at home. So you can see there's quite a big gap between the typical office and work from home operation. Now, obviously, that's, there are means of dealing with that, and I'm going to show you very shortly how. So what we recommend is leveling the operating field, all right, and first of all is acknowledging and recognizing what do people that work from home, what do they need? And what they need is they need certainty of contact and continuity of contact. All right. So certainty means you should never have a work from home employee left alone or unable to get the support they need when they need it. All right. You also have to acknowledge, and it's very critical, that inside an office where you have the buzz and everybody around you on the same work mission working with you, you have a lot of physical cues around things that the people at home do not get the benefit of that. All right. So this is the typical, thing that I dealt over the years in saying you can manage what you can't see, but you have to acknowledge that there's a difference when some things are obvious in front of you and when they aren't. And also understand that from the people that are at home, they can go very, very deep into a sense of loneliness and what we term lone working, if you do not compensate for the absence of physical cues and the buzz of the office. All right. Now, I put a little note here that's a bit grayed out, but is those physical cues can be reassuring. We're social creatures and we're used to the eye contact and seeing people, reading body languages and all that. They can be very, very reassuring, but they're not always helpful. And actually, sometimes they can be detrimental as well. So as now that we are all being forced into this world of where we're working on a distributed at-home basis, is acknowledging that we're also discovering that there's some of the physical cues that we were having from being next to the people we work with aren't necessarily helpful of the time. The second thing is understanding what are the emerging needs of this new hybrid workplace and the people that work from home. Our homes are our most personal places, all right? It's where normally, when we come back from work, we put, and we step into our homes, we put our work behind us, and vice versa. If I enter the workplace, in the physical workplace, I leave my life behind in the sense, and my personal stuff behind to get on with what I need to do in my work mission. But now that these things are merging, then basically what's happening is life and work are colluding. They're running into each other, and the staff that's at home have unique constraints and that they only know about, that may impact the work they do for you and your organization. So as businesses, what we need to find is and we need to give the means to the people to speak out very easily and escalate whatever is impacting their work life at home, and have that industrialized. right? And I'll explain what I mean by that a bit later on. But having just the ability, back to the first point around certainty, and me being able to call my line manager and complain and say, oh, actually, I need my children are at home, I can't work right now, is not a solid means and is not sustainable as a process. So it's really important that as businesses that have to do work from home in the context of the pandemic and beyond, is how do you capture the individual needs now of your people at home, so that there's no conflict between their work life and their lives. All right. So it's the typical work-life balance, and as I say, this is going to be one of the biggest issues that is going to face the organizations that are doing work from home, is that some employees are just kind of basically in the beginning, what we saw is nobody was speaking out because they felt they couldn't. They were afraid for their jobs, they're afraid for their family and their health. But more and more, now people are starting to say, okay, well, if this is going to be business as usual now, and I'm going to be working from home all the time, you as my employer need to give me an avenue and a forum so I can explain my personal individual constraints, so that they can be dealt with. Otherwise, they bottle it in, and what we end up with is some people that have leading mental illness, anxieties around work because they're supposed to work, but they can't because their children are there, and children and life is more important than work. So it's how do you balance all these things together? I've put here a table of, it's kind of the echo of the previous slide, which was around the business processes. This is from a personal point of view, is those workflows of how do I get the support? How do I get the information? And is my knowledge where it needs to be? All right. We're not going to go through the entire table, but it's different, again, workflows and use cases of, as an individual, what do I need from my organization and how am I doing and how can I get this information? What's, again, just back to the previous slide, is there's definitely a second-class citizen situation we're in now, that the work from home do not have access to the same level of information, support, and knowledge as the people in the office. So you're here because obviously nobody wants to leave anybody behind. And what we want to do is we want to level the operating field so everybody's got the same information, attention, and care. So how do you achieve that? So one of the things that we see is that people try to translate, i.e., or apply the same process that they have inside the building to the people at home, right? And actually, this sometimes backfires quite considerably. So our general recommendation is rewrite your processes so they englobe all your citizens. Okay, and trying to apply something that works in an office often doesn't work if you try to do the same thing with people at home. Okay, so it's important to kind of go back to the drawing board and saying, all right, in terms of how we provide support, let's say, or how do we provide a brief to the people, can we rely on email in this scenario for work from home people if we don't have the visual cue that they've read it and understand it, or I can quickly say, raise your hand if you've read the email. All right, so it's about understanding what are the differences and what's missing work from home, and rewrite your processes so that they englobe all your citizens wherever they are. Second is create new processes exclusively, and this might be a bit of a conflict with point one, for the work from home people or when they are at home, so that you kill what we term lone working. All right, again, is the needs of the people when they are at home will be different than when the people are in the office. So it's differentiating, okay, what are these different needs, identifying them, and making sure that you nip them in the bud. And finally is make sure that you adopt fit for purpose communication and collaboration tools so that everybody's literally on the same page, right? So the standard tools that we have at our disposal, we're using one now. There's lots of them. I've put a few here, which are the main ones. Whilst they're extremely useful for some use cases, like Zoom is perfect for audiovisual conferencing, it's not a great collaboration tool, right? It's good for meetings, but it's not good for collaborations. But most of these tools, again, were built in specific context. They're not specific to contact centers. So there are challenges. I've named two here. I really would advise that nobody uses WhatsApp or mobile phones and SMS to provide supports and communication to their people. Same thing with Skype. These are not business tools. These are personal tools. They actually endanger on a number of fronts. And we can speak from experience because before there was Teams and before there was Google Meet or anything like that, we used Skype a long time ago when at our humble beginnings, because that's all that was available on the market, right? But one of the critical things with all these tools is that they are what we term micro collaboration tools. They're made for small units of people, small groups. They don't scale, and that's why the challenge number one here for things like Teams is one of scale. It's great for up to a dozen people, and even that's maximum. And we'll explain why that's a real critical factor in how you design your toolkit for your hybrid operation. All these tools also present UI constraints and also the use cases, so that basically what they tend to do is, and again going back to the previous point, is they don't defragment your environment. So, for example, as I said, is if you try to build a solution based on Teams, you would need to have a bunch of different team groups and physical teams, team leaders in their teams, and that's not going to provide you with the answer to the issue of having people on level playing field in terms of information, knowledge, and support, because you'll have as many teams on Teams and you fragment your environment. So how did we do it? So with Sensée, what we did is, obviously there was no tool. There was nothing when we started a long time ago. So, and our mission was to be 100% virtual across all functions. We had to make sure that we had an A game and we had the best tools in the business so that there was no detriment to the end customer experience. And obviously we put people first. So our people's well-being was the priority. We build an ecosystem that does everything from remote onboarding to coordinating the staff. But here I'm going to focus today on what we call LiveDesk, which is our digital workplace tool. All right. So what's LiveDesk? So in a nutshell, and you have some screenshots of them, don't worry, I'll show you some up front, it's first and foremost, it's a macro collaboration toolkit. All right. And its purpose is to unite and unify a large work group into a perpetual workspace, which is a web page like you can see here, but that's composed of a multitude of what we term pods. All right, so pods have lots of different functions. I'm going to go through the list of all the different pods. And LiveDesk are assembled using these pods as you see fit, but basically it's made to handle, and our largest LiveDesk today has got about 600 concurrent users, all right, so that they can collaborate and they are literally on the same page. And it's basically the unifying glue between all the stakeholders that are on the same customer mission, all right? What's really important here is that whilst I'm able to differentiate each user and what their function is, i.e., is it an agent, is it a floor walker, is it IT, is it a team leader, they all see the same thing, all right? So they have access to the same information, They have access to the same knowledge and the same support, because you have virtual floor walkers in this digital workplace. All right. So it uses the same concepts. There's rooms, you know, there's bays, there's et cetera, but the entire interface is fit for purpose to welcome, coordinate, and support a large amount of people. So, as I say, it's, you know, live desks are made of pods, and the number one is users. Who's there? All right. So unlike some of the tools we saw earlier on, the whole idea of a live desk is, again, it's a place. All right. So it's a digital workplace. So the live desk and the users, I can see who's in and who's not in, and I can see what their roles are. I can see, are they at home or are they in the office? Right? Because this is just meant to unify the people that are at home. This unites and unifies the people wherever they are. So our clients use LiveDesk to create a virtual workplace for all the people that are in the same line of business. So say in an insurance, a claims team, or a claims department, sorry, whether the people are in the office working for our client, employed by our client, or an outsourced agent working at home for Sensée, they are in the same live desk. All right. So the user pod tells you where people are in the physical world, at home or in the office, but it tells also where they are in the virtual world. Are they right now in a virtual bay? Are they in a breakout room undergoing training, et cetera, et cetera? We have what we call a threaded chat pod. So those pods are meant so that basically virtual, if I'm an agent and I have a need to, I have a question in the physical world, I raise my hand and try to get a floor walker's attention to come to me. In this virtual workplace, what you have is you have virtual floor walkers or subject matter experts that are there, and they can see when somebody asks a question and they claim the question, and that launches a chat between just me and that individual without leaving the virtual workplace. So now we have a one-to-one conversation to resolve the issue, and it's not polluting the rest of the chat that everybody else is seeing. All right. And this is a key thing around, again, going back to the concept of scalability. If you use a chat pod in Teams or in Zoom, you don't have the function of claiming chats and things like that. But if you have 10, 12 people chatting in real time and asking questions, you can really easily lose the plot. All right. So it saturates very, very quickly. With threaded chats, you can easily go in a different dimension of the chat pod so that I can have a one-to-one conversation without leaving the rest of the group. Polling is to gauge engagement or ask questions around overtime, or are you experiencing particular calls or whatever. Bulletin is to post information that's important that people must read and acknowledge for them to take calls. Things change all the time, so to keep on the pulse, rather than sending in emails and hoping that people will receive them, open them, read them, digest them, and accept them, you use bulletin boards where in the live desk, so that people have it right in front of them when they enter the virtual workplace, and they can see what's going on. And you also have a track that they have read it and understood it. All right. As I said, custom layouts, and again, I'll go on that in a minute. Then we have a number of other pods and features that are quite neat. So one of them is, for example, broadcast. So broadcast will literally take over all my user screen if I have a critical alert that I need a group of users to know about that is critical to whatever they're working on. All right. So again, and they have to tick the box, acknowledge they've read it before they can get onto anything else. So you are ensured people are on the beat. All right. They can't possibly miss the broadcast. Personal notifications. So if I want to engage in a personal chat with somebody, I can do that in LiveDesk. Individuals can do it as social chat as well. So they have personal notifications. So if there's a piece of information they need to know. I have breakout team rooms. So I still have the notion of hierarchy, which I'll explain in a minute. And my team has a special virtual room just for them inside the LiveDesk too. Web pods is to connect If you have wall boards inside your contact centers where I can see customer queues and stuff like that, that very often is a problem inside for your work from home employees. They don't see that because they're at home. So this gives you an ability to connect that wall board to a web pod so everybody can see the same queue stat and statistics as everybody else. The hierarchy, as I said, is the unlike the other tools where that I mentioned earlier on, here it's specifically around the operational roles inside a contact center, from team leader to quality control, IT, etc. I can share files as well securely, and very importantly, I have a dashboard, which I'm going to have a whole slide on for you a bit later. You have size segmentation. So this is the trick so that we don't saturate live desks. And finally, we have zones. So I'm going to go really quickly with those principles. So a live desk is assembled by the managers, by your people themselves. There's as many live desks as there are lines of business covered. And I have at my disposal all these different pods. And basically what I do in a live desk as a live desk manager is that I create layouts. All right, I can have a live desk for my sales team, one for my service, one for my claims team. And basically they each have their own custom page with where all these different pods are assembled as I see fit. All right, I have 3 zones: my main floor zone, my social zone, and my management hangout zone. All right, now depending on my role, I have different permissions and I see different things. But everybody sees the main floor. So I'll have all my users so I can know who's in my digital workplace. I'll create a chat for my support. I'll put a billboard around information that needs to be read. I'll put a couple of polls, say, this is an example layout, but it can be anything you want. And that's the critical bit. I'll put my web pod for my digital wall board. I'll put another chat because actually we're experiencing some special demand and we need special support around that. I'll create a file share, and then a third chat for in case there's IT issues. And in my social, I'll create another chat just for people to virtualize my water cooler so all my people can interact together in my digital workplace. I'll put a special broadcast around an event that we want to run, and probably a mood engagement survey, for example. In my management hangout, I'll have another chat so that we can coordinate ourselves as leaders, team leaders, floor walkers, etc., information and a file share about what's the latest and greatest process, for example. All right. So again, just imagine that you can organize that any way you want. Right. And then basically the beauty is, again, is the hierarchy of the contact center is in this system so that my managers have the can grant and deny access to my digital workplace. They can change the layout. They can edit what's in the pods. They have their own rooms and they view everything. Floor walkers can only edit pods and have a room, and agents, they can just see and chat, right? They can't change the content. They can't influence the layout or anything like that. That is for the next levels up. So how does it look like? Here's an example live desk. The training time for a live desk for agents is pretty much half an hour. For live desk managers, it's a couple of hours on how to use the different tools and for what purpose. So what you see here in the middle here, I have my social space. On the right here, I have my management hangout and management discussions. And then on the left-hand side here, I have my attendee list, billboards, polls for overtime, customer trends, and call measures. And then I'll have an IT issues chat, as we said earlier on. And I have my threaded chat, as we said as well. Again, this is the layout for that particular example. Just, I guess, for the SSC's got some 2,000 users across 3 countries and 6 sites using 30-ish live desks. All right, so that's what they use to unify and unite across supplies, across countries, users across the same lines of business, from smart metering to home moves. Now, what's really, really critical and the most important fact that I'm leaving for last is the digital workplace is intelligent. Why? Because we record all the interactions between all the users. All right. So again, the example I said earlier on about I have a question because I'm not sure about how to handle this customer query. I ask the question, it's claimed by a floor walker, then it's answered. Then eventually, once we get to the end of our thread, when the floor walker closes, it asks the floor walker, what was the complexity of the question that Steve asked? And Steve is asked, what was the clarity of the floor walker's answer? All right. And we record all these interactions so that we have a framework for continuous improvement of our hybrid digital workplace. All right. So these are just example dashboards, but you have from what is, I'll go back from word clouds to what is the trend in terms of the number of questions being asked, complexities of the questions being asked, leaderboards about who's asking the most questions, where are people in their knowledge flight path? Are people asking lots of simple questions? Is there a capability gap that we need to deal with? All right. And I can understand what the trending is in terms of also my support. Is my support adequate? Is it right sized? Is it providing clear answers? Is it providing quick answers? All right. And ultimately, all this feeds into this continuous improvement framework so that you now have the insights of how your people are interacting in resolving and in their customer mission. So those key functions is, as I said, it's fit for purpose for floor walking and live support. That's the number one thing that LiveDesks are used for. It provides a consistent channel to communicate with your people in terms of what they need to know when they're speaking to customers. It provides a unique opportunity because whilst the chats are being thread, I can always see what people have asked. What was the first question and the first answer provided by the floor walker in those threaded chat pods, so people can learn from each other. And that's a really critical bit. I can obviously do my team meetings and one-to-ones. We have integration in LiveDesk so that if you have investments in things like Teams or Google Meets or Zoom, you can actually use those tools for what they're great at, which is to do a quick meeting. And we do that ourselves. It provides a great opportunity to understand if there are technical issues across the board, to the point that now 100% of our clients use their LiveDesk as the means to identify issues, address them, and resolve them. Because let's say a group of users report in one chat box, I'm having problems with Citrix, I'm having problems with Citrix. The IT can come in, grab these users, go into a breakout room, try to fix what the problem is, and they're back where they are. As I said, it provides the opportunity of learning, and very importantly, it provides one workplace. All right, it's there to unite and unify your people on the same customer mission. So what are the benefits? The number one benefits is that we see is reduced management management overhead. My one virtual floor walker can support multiple people at the same time in this digital workplace. In the physical workplace, I can do one at a time and nothing is measured, all right? It increases ultimately both my effectiveness and my efficiency measures. So we've seen an AHT, average handling time reduction of up to 20% for clients as soon as they go on the LiveDesks, all right? And that's because I don't need to put my customers on hold anymore. And also, very importantly, we've seen a dramatic effect on first call resolution or first contact resolution and first time fix. All right, so it's beneficial across all the metrics. It's increasing the adherence because I know where people are, what they're doing, and if they're doing what they should be doing. Critically increases engagement. So going back to everybody now, whether I'm in the office or at home, I'm together with all my colleagues in this digital workplace, and therefore nobody's left behind, and we're on a level playing field in terms of there's no second-class citizens anymore. And what we found is that by giving them, virtualizing the water cooler and giving the people the ability to have a forum to chat and to interact with all their colleagues as they see fit, engagement has gone through the roof. And finally, again, that's a byproduct of the first line triage. We've seen a fairly significant reduction in IT downtime and speed of resolution around IT issues. So that's the LiveDesk in terms of as a presentation. What I'm going to quickly do, if that's okay with everybody, before answering question, I'm going to show you what it looks like live. So what you have here right now is you have an empty LiveDesk, all right? And this is just to show you how quickly you can create a LiveDesk. So I have already pre-existing layouts that I can recall at any time. Now remember, if I'm a manager and I already have an existing layout that's been created, I can, if I press this button, everybody now will see this, bar my management hangout on the right-hand side. I'll go back to my blank layouts and we'll just really quickly, so I have my pods here that I explained earlier on, and I'll just put my user pod. It appears in my management hangout so I can prepare it. I'll resize it the way I see fit. And then I just drag and drop it in my main space. Now, all the users that would be there with me would see now this appear in their space. Now, obviously, we generally prepare these things in advance. I'll put my management only chat here for all my managers. I'll keep it there for now. I'm going to put an image with my logo and resize it again. So I've branded my place. And you get the drill. I basically add my different pods, and what you see is what you get. If you're a normal user, you would see exactly what I see there, but you would not have the controls. You would not be able to delete a pod, move it, or anything like that. So everybody can see what they need to see. They see the same thing and have access to the same level of information. I can put my billboard here around culture and values, and et cetera, et cetera. And ultimately, you have layouts as you see fit. Let me try to find one that's complete like this here. And again, it can look quite as a lot, but remember that as I enter or leave my workplace, I generally find the LiveDesk as I left it. What changes is updates in my billboards. If I need to read this billboard in detail, I can enable focus mode, and anybody can do that. So I can read it in detail and hide away the clutter from behind. Now, what I wanted to show with you in terms of the work chat really rapidly is you can see, hopefully, the difference in colors. Now, every time is you have here an agent that asked a question. It's me, so I'm on the right-hand side. And I can see everybody would be able to see my first question and the first answer provided to me. And all I have to do is click on the eye if I want to view that thread. If I'm like, I've always wondered what that was, and I want to learn about that, I click that, and now I can see their thread. It appears in a tab, and I can just return now to the rest, okay? Now, the same principles happens in a live thread when people claim questions. So that basically I can, I have my own area. Now I'm in a one-to-one discussion with my floor walker. And as soon as that's finished, it pops up the rating of the complexity of question to the floor walker, clarity of answer, and I can go back to the main thread, right? Now, I can be member of multiple LiveDesks, all right? So let's say that I'm a service delivery manager for a contact center, and my responsibility is both sales and service. I have one LiveDesk for each. I can obviously move from one to the other. And the same applies if I'm an agent training both sales and service, and they would each have their respective LiveDesks. I can, as a user, I can say, am I in a coaching, troubleshooting? Do I agree, disagree? If we're in a scenario, we're doing presentations. I can create what we call virtual bays. Basically what that is that if I have 100 users, obviously having a single chat for 100 users is going to lead to this saturation effect in terms of workflow that I explained earlier on. So what I can do is say, okay, I've got 50 users. Well, right now I've got 13, but I'll add a virtual bay, which has been there. And I'm going to distribute my users across both equally. So now I've got a virtual bay. And what that is it divides my work chat across those two groups. So rather than having one chat for 13 people, I have two chats for 6 in this instance, okay? As I said earlier on, I can change my locations to say if I'm at home or not. And what that would do is it would basically put a little roof over my head to indicate that I'm a home user right now. Finally, is all team leaders have their own rooms, as I said earlier on, and managers or IT. And all I need to do is, if you have a Skype or Teams or Zoom, you can just enter the URL in there. It's saved in the system. And if I have other users, I just drag and drop them in my room, and I click start, and it starts the meeting for them. So I don't need to go through that nonsense and the complicated workflow of sending invites to everybody, making sure that they've received the invitation, then they click on the thing and it launches the application. So LiveDesk are integrated to all the standard micro collaboration tools on the market to enable you to basically use those tools for what they're best, which is to do meetings. On that, that's it for my presentation. So we can get to questions and answers.